In the last segment, I was saying how the vast, overwhelming majority. Now, you're going to hear me use that probably about 10,000 times, that phrase, when I go through this series. Okay? And it's because there's no other way of saying almost all. The vast, overwhelming majority, meaning that the only ones who are not affected like this are a tiny percentage. Okay, so the vast, overwhelming majority of order followers, who indeed are the creators of the dark New World Order, as I call the slavery system, that we're already in. It's not being built, it's already here, it's already built. It's just a matter of how much are they going to tighten the thumb screws. You know, that's all it really is. You're already in it. The vast, overwhelming majority of the order followers who are responsible for the building of this immoral slavery system that we are living in are men. Vast, overwhelming majority. I would say probably well over 95%, if not more, of the order followers who have basically done this to our society are men. However, okay, in when we talked about this in the non-supportive dominators and in the order followers series, how many women interface and interact with these men on a daily basis throughout their lives? Just think about that for a minute. And instead of being in the role of moral nurturer, which women traditionally played throughout human history, they have grown up without being raised with moral values, and therefore they're sitting there and thinking it's totally fine what all of these men are doing, following orders for a paycheck. You know, how many of them just love what they're doing, think it's so necessary, and just like all the other supporters of statism and slavery, which is slavery, you know, you'll ask them for the reasons. Why do you think it's necessary that they do? Oh, they're protecting us. There would be chaos without them doing what they do. Advocating for violence and coercion all the time. No imagination. And there we have the influence of the school system, the indoctrination system. And you look at how the school system has been taken by these think tanks that I'm going to talk about. And you study how that was done. And how Nazis and communists came together on that plan and took the schools of America. First of all, even putting schooling in the hands of the government through public education, funded by tax dollars, is a huge mistake in the first place. And people, you know, will say, oh, the government should be spending more money on education. Government shouldn't be involved in education at all. First of all, there should be no government. Let alone having government is bad of enough idea. Then you want to give it control over what children learn? I mean, God help us, folks. I mean, what a brilliant idea that is. Let's let these totalitarians in the form of communists and fascists and Nazis teach the minds of our children. I mean, just absolutely great, great plan. Yeah, it's called, it comes right out of the Frankfurt School of Marxism and the plan of the Italian fascist Antonio Gramsci. You never even heard of these people or these think tanks. Half the people out there, because you don't read books. You know, study the Fabian Society and its incrementalism. You know, Gramsci's plan of a long march through the cultural institutions to bring in socialism and eventually communism and fascism into, you know, all of Western culture. And people are helping them do it. All these absolute immoral trash teachers that are running the education system, purposefully indoctrinating the children because you want a paycheck, teaching them outcome-based education that came right out of the Prussian educational model that brought the Nazi regime into manifestation through how they indoctrinated their children in their school system, and then taught the future generations of what would have been the future fascists of Europe in the form of the Hitler Jugend in the Third Reich. All outcome-based education. The same schooling system was taught by the Soviet communists. All comes out of a perversion of the trivium of the ancient world. You know, people don't even understand that was all imported over here to take the minds of our children, to start waging a war between boys and girls so that would continue later in life. Indoctrinating them mentally, breaking the boys when they're real young, teaching the girls to worship the state, teaching the girls to only worry about, appearances, or only worry about money as a value system. And teaching men to go along with that corporate fascist rule. We got to groom these people for being role model citizens and good corporate slaves. Teaching them training and obedience. That's where it starts, folks. That's why so many people are so retarded in our society. They're absolutely retarded. Because their minds were molded by a fascist and communist plan of subversive indoctrination from the minute they pop out of the womb. Waged incessantly in the school system. That's why they call it a school. A big gaggle of fish going along with each other. Follow the leader. Pack mentality, herd mentality. Like one, getting them to school so it's like one entity that you could easily control. As Michael Tessarion says, one neck in one noose. That's how they're looking to collectivize us. How many women in society support order followers? They think it's so wonderful. Hey, like I said, folks, I don't need to go any further than home. Okay? Let's talk about my own family. I'll tell you an anecdotal story. Okay? Because I like to make it personal. And I like to target people and talk about people who I know. I'll give you plenty of examples. But here's just one. My own mother. Okay? An old friend of mine, who I hadn't seen in a while, comes to visit me one day. And my mother stopped by my place as well. She didn't know he was even going to be there. I won't mention names. And, me and him are talking and catching up. And, she comes in and, says, "Oh, hi, good to see you. Haven't seen you in a long time," And he has a son. And she says to him, "How's your son doing? How's he been?" He's a single, a separated parent, divorced parent, divorced from the birth mother of his son. And she says, "How's your son been?" And he says, "Well, he's not at home anymore. He joined the Air Force." Okay, so became an order follower. And the first words out of my mother's mouth is, "Isn't that wonderful?" I just wanted to go over into the corner of the room, sit down in the chair, put my head in my hands and weep for a few hours. Because that's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful that you turn the child over to the state for further cult indoctrination and order following. What awesome. And this is what I mean. That's part of what I'm talking about. And don't get me wrong, a lot of guys will think the same thing. I'm just saying it's overwhelming in the female population, the support of order followers. They think it's so great. At least, 99% of the women I'm around on a daily basis do. So few women who I know have their minds out of the matrix. So few women. You could just think about how many women are involved in the truth movement, speaking the truth. Tonight on the show, we're talking about the neo-feminist agenda as a eugenics operation. The type of mind control that is launched as part of this agenda that specifically targets women in our society and foments the war, the ever increasingly belligerent war of division between the sexes. And I was talking about how many women in our society support order followers, because they've been taught somehow that that's an epitome of masculinity, and that's how men should be behaving. They should be authority figures, and that government is good. Government's looking out for our interests. It cares about you. As an entity, as an institution, the people in it, they're all good-hearted, caring people. The police all have great intentions. Oh, they're just good people. I just completed an entire series of shows on order followers and how there's never been an order follower in the history of the universe that has been a moral human being. Get as offended about that as you want. Blanket statement, 100% eternally. They are antitheses of each other. They are polar, diametrically opposed polar opposites. For someone to be a truly moral being, they cannot follow orders. They must exercise conscience, the definitive knowledge of the difference between right and wrong behavior. And exercising conscience is taking willful action to choose right action over wrong action once the definitive difference between right and wrong behaviors is fully understood. An order follower never engages in that judgment process, ever. That judgment process is wiped out, is abdicated. They say to someone else, oh, you tell me what's right and wrong, and then I'll perform the behavior. And by definition, if you are acting in that capacity, you are engaging in immorality. Now, you won't hear Christians talking about that, though, these fake-ass Christians. You won't hear them talking about that. They're pieces of garbage, is what they are. Christians in name only. You want to talk about, I have to believe in Jesus, salvationism, garbage that was given to you by your satanic masters. But you'll never talk about the immorality of order following. No, because to you, order following is a virtue, just like your garbage religion. Just like all the other garbage religions out there, like Islam and Judaism and Hinduism and Buddhism and all the religions. It's all garbage. It's all there to hold you back from truth. For all the dunces that haven't figured it out yet. The New Age movement's one of them. Modern science is one of them. So-called science, which is nothing but government-backed, grant money-funded scientism that's going to find the results that Big Daddy government, who gives the grant money to do that so-called science, wants out there. Money's the biggest religion in the world, folks. The New Age movement is right up there with all the other religions, just another cul-de-sac. It's all Christians in name only, Jews in name only, Muslims in name only, Buddhists in name only. 99.99999% of them are actual garbage human beings that wouldn't know one thing about morals if it ran over them like a freight train. And these are all the people in society that would be some of the first to tell you following orders is some kind of a virtue. And people wouldn't be raised like that if they had any kind of decent parenting. And where parenting used to have a nurturing influence was in the feminine influence within the family. Not anymore. Women want to be men now. That's one of the big pillars and tenets of neo-feminism is women are men. There's no difference between the sexes. We need to blur all the difference between the sexes and cut out any kind of traditional classical roles that women or men played in society. Women as nurturers, men as protectors. We can't have that. We have to blur all of those, natural tendencies, bring everybody into an androgynous glop. Because they're easier to control that way. That's the reason it's done.